The trap of defending yourself. Everything you've been told about defending yourself is a lie. In fact, the very moment you explain, justify, or try to clear your name, you've already surrendered power. Machiavelli warned us 5 centuries ago. The man who defends himself kneels before his accuser. He accepts their judgment, their frame, their rules, and in that instant, he is no longer feared, he is owned. But here's the darker truth. In silence lies the most terrifying kind of power. The predator does not explain, the king does not beg, and the truly dangerous man never defends himself, because his presence alone is enough to destroy the accusation before it lands. That single idea flips the world upside down. We live in an age where people rush to issue statements, clarifications, apologies. A celebrity is accused of something and immediately posts a long explanation on social media. A politician under fire holds a press conference to set the record straight. A businessman confronted by critics publishes a 100-page report to justify his every decision. And yet, have you noticed? The more they explain, the weaker they appear. Because defending yourself is not about truth, it's about perception. And in the ruthless battlefield of human interaction, perception is the only currency that matters. Why defending yourself is a trap. When you defend yourself, you step onto your enemy's battlefield. You accept their terms. If someone says, "You're dishonest," and you reply, "No, let me explain why I'm not," you've already lost. Why? Because you just admitted they had the authority to judge you. You're now arguing from a position of weakness, trying to escape the prison of their words. Machiavelli understood this in The Prince. He observed that rulers who rushed to clear their names were remembered as weaklings. But those who ignored accusations, or better, punished the accusers without a word, were feared and respected. Power is not built on the truth. Power is built on the ability to control what others perceive as truth. Ask yourself, when was the last time explaining yourself actually worked? Think of the times you said, "That's not what I meant," or "You misunderstood me." Did people suddenly admire you, or did they walk away thinking you were scrambling, guilty, and defensive? Here's the brutal reality. When you defend yourself, you plant a seed of doubt that did not exist before. You give the accusation oxygen, and once the fire starts, you cannot contain it. A historical lesson, Cesare Borgia's silence. Cesare Borgia, one of Machiavelli's favorite examples of ruthless leadership, understood this. Borgia was accused of betrayal, cruelty, and endless conspiracies. Did he hold a press conference? Did he explain? Number. He rode in silence with an army at his back. His enemies whispered, but his silence was louder than their words. The fewer explanations he gave, the more terrifying his presence became. People filled the silence with their imagination, and imagination is always more powerful than fact. Machiavelli admired Borgia not because he was moral, but because he was effective. And effectiveness in power comes not from justifying, but from projecting an aura that needs no justification. Modern parallels. Corporate battlefields. Now think of modern business. Imagine you're at a company meeting and a rival says, "Your strategy is reckless." The ordinary man jumps in, explaining spreadsheets, market analysis, reasons. He drowns in words. The strong man leans back, lets the silence hang, and then says calmly, "Interesting. Tell us yours." Suddenly the accuser is on trial. The room turns, the power flips, or consider social media. Someone attacks your character online, and the instinct is to post a defense. But the Machiavellian move is silence. Let the critics bark into the void. Let the crowd wonder why you haven't responded. Silence breeds mystery, and mystery breeds power. The psychology of frames. Here's the key idea. The battle isn't about facts, it's about frames. A frame is the invisible rule of the game. Whoever sets the frame wins the battle. Defending yourself means you've stepped inside their frame. You're no longer leading, you're reacting. And in power, reaction equals weakness. Think of a courtroom. The defendant is already assumed guilty until proven innocent. The very act of defending puts you in chains. But the ruler, the predator, the dominant player, never accepts that position. He doesn't argue, he defines the game itself. Machiavelli would say, "The man who explains submits." And submission is death in the hierarchy of power. Mini hook for the viewer. So let me ask you, the next time someone questions you, insults you, or accuses you, what will you do? Will you rush to explain, to clear your name, to look innocent? Or will you hold the silence, let the weight of their own words crush them, and remind everyone watching that you are not a man who kneels before an accuser? Because here's the secret most people will never learn. Defending yourself is not strength, it's slavery. And silence is not weakness, it's dominance. This is the first law of Machiavellian survival. Stop explaining, stop justifying, stop kneeling before accusations. From this moment forward, understand one thing. The second you defend yourself, you've already lost. Silence as a weapon. The weak believe that words will save them. The strong know that silence is the blade no one sees coming. Machiavelli, who dissected the games of power with the precision of a surgeon, understood that silence isn't the absence of action, it's the most terrifying kind of action. The predator's silence picture a lion in the wild. When accused of being dangerous, does it roar in protest? Does it call a council of animals to clear its reputation? Number. It simply stares, unblinking, until the weaker creature trembles in its own imagination. The lion doesn't need to explain that it is deadly. The silence says everything. This is the Machiavellian truth. Your goal is not to be understood. Your goal is to be feared, respected, and untouchable. And silence accomplishes that better than any speech. When you explain, you're begging to be understood. When you are silent, you force others to fill in the blanks, and humans always overestimate the danger of what they cannot hear. Psychological torture of silence. Silence is not neutral, it is psychological warfare. Watch what happens when you don't respond. The accuser repeats their words, louder this time. They add details, they glance around for backup, and with every repetition, they appear more insecure, more desperate, more exposed. You didn't argue. You didn't fight. You simply held the mirror of silence in front of them, and they collapsed under their own reflection. Machiavelli would smile at this tactic because it costs you nothing and destroys them completely. It is the art of letting your enemies commit suicide while you watch. Historical example: Napoleon's cold silence. Napoleon Bonaparte, accused by his enemies of being arrogant, rarely defended himself. He let others rage, slander, and spread rumors. His silence created an aura of mystery. Was he above their insults? Did he know something they didn't? The lack of response only made him more feared. Napoleon understood that explanations diminish a leader's aura, while silence enlarges it. His very refusal to engage made his enemies look petty, and his presence more imposing. Modern parallels: CEOs and politicians. In the corporate world, silence is equally lethal. A CEO accused in front of the board doesn't rush to argue. He leans back, pauses, and lets the weight of silence drag the challenger down. The longer he waits, the weaker the challenger appears. In politics, silence can be even more devastating. A politician who refuses to respond to every accusation forces the media to speculate. The speculation often makes the accusation seem smaller than the silence. People think, if he doesn't even bother replying, maybe it's not important. Or maybe he's too powerful to care. This is how leaders weaponize silence, not as retreat, but as dominance. The mystery of silence. The more people know you, the less they fear you. The more you explain, the more predictable you become. Silence restores mystery, and mystery is power. Think of Michael Corleone in The Godfather. His enemies argued, shouted, justified. Michael listened. He rarely spoke, but when he did, it cut like a knife. His silence was not weakness, it was the drumbeat of inevitability. Mini hook. Would you rather look guilty or terrifying? Ask yourself, if you had to choose between looking guilty or looking terrifying, which would you prefer? Defending yourself makes you look guilty. Remaining silent makes you look terrifying. The guilty man defends. The dangerous man does not. The crowd as your shield. Silence also activates another hidden weapon, the crowd. When you defend yourself, you isolate yourself. When you remain calm and silent, others often rush to defend you. They feel the need to balance the scales. They say, "That was uncalled for," or "He didn't even respond, and you're still attacking him." Suddenly, without moving a finger, you have an army of defenders. You didn't spend energy. You didn't explain. The crowd did the work for you. Machiavelli's warning. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must appear powerful even when he is vulnerable. Silence achieves this appearance. Words expose. Silence conceals. And what is concealed is feared more than what is revealed. In his eyes, the man who explains is already defeated, for he plays by the rules of others. But the man who stays silent rewrites the rules without speaking. The unbearable weight of silence. Remember this, silence is not passive. It's an active weapon. To wield it, you must endure discomfort. The insecure cannot handle silence. They panic and speak. The powerful endure silence. They let it build pressure until others break. This is why Machiavelli's wisdom remains timeless. Silence is the invisible sword. It cuts reputations, dismantles accusations, and amplifies your presence, all without you lifting a finger. So the next time someone throws an insult or accusation your way, resist the urge to explain. Let the silence hang like a guillotine over the room. Watch your enemy sweat under their own words. Because in that moment, you've already won. Reframing and counterattack. If silence is the sword that bleeds your enemy without motion, then reframing is the shield that turns their strike back against them. Machiavelli understood that the battlefield of power is not only fought with armies or money, it is fought with frames. Whoever controls the frame controls the narrative, and whoever controls the narrative controls the outcome. The trap of their frame. Every accusation, every insult, every jab someone throws at you is more than just words. It is an attempt to trap you inside a frame of their choosing. If they call you arrogant and you rush to say, "I'm not arrogant, I'm confident," you've already accepted their frame. Now you're playing by their definitions. You're no longer the author of reality. You're a defendant in their courtroom. Machiavelli would remind us, the prince is never judged. He is the one who judges. To let others define you is to hand them the throne, flipping the accusation. So how do you escape this trap? By turning the accusation into a weapon. Instead of defending, you reframe. Someone says, "You're manipulative." The weak man pleads, "I'm not manipulative, I just..." But the Machiavellian operator replies, "Only those who cannot be influenced fear influence." Suddenly the accuser is exposed as insecure, or someone says, "You're arrogant." A desperate man denies it. A Machiavellian replies, "Strange that confidence disturbs you." The attack dissolves. The accuser is now the one on trial, scrambling to justify why they feel threatened. This is the essence of reframing. You don't deny the accusation, you redefine it on your terms. Historical lessons. Roman arrogance. Roman generals were often accused of arrogance. To the Senate, arrogance was dangerous. It meant ambition beyond control. But the great generals never denied it. Julius Caesar leaned into it. He reframed arrogance as destiny, as the confidence required to command legions and conquer nations. He never begged for approval. He declared his ambition as inevitable. The Senate feared him, but they could not stop him. Machiavelli admired such audacity. To reframe is to seize the authority of interpretation. It is to remind the world that your voice defines reality. Modern example: workplace ambush. Imagine you are in a business meeting. A rival smirks and says, "You always think you're the smartest one here." Most people would laugh nervously or protest. "That's not true, And instantly, the room sees weakness. But the Machiavellian answer? Silence first, a slow look, and then strange. Confidence looks like arrogance only to the insecure. In that moment, the table shifts. Now the accuser looks defensive, exposed, petty. You didn't just deflect, you reversed the polarity of power. Precision cuts. Short, lethal phrases. Reframing works best with precision. The fewer words you use, the sharper the blade. Some examples. Noted. Think what you like. Confidence makes people uncomfortable. That's your perspective. These are not defenses. They are weapons. Each phrase ends the conversation without opening a door for counterattack. Each phrase forces the attacker to choke on their own words. The psychological effect of reframing. When you reframe, you achieve two things simultaneously. You refuse to kneel to their authority. You impose your authority by rewriting reality. People watching see this and unconsciously shift allegiance. They sense that you are not at the mercy of accusations. You are the one shaping the battlefield. That aura is unforgettable. Mini hook for the viewer. So let me ask you directly, if someone accused you of being manipulative, arrogant, or ruthless, would you rush to explain, or would you smile, twist the frame, and make them sweat under their own words? Because here's the truth, those who defend their character lose it. Those who redefine their character own it. Machiavelli's principle of control. Machiavelli wrote that men are not ruled by truth, but by appearances. Reframing is the art of managing appearances. It is not about who is right, it is about who appears untouchable. The man who reframes is never cornered, never judged, never trapped. He is the architect of perception. Counterattack in relationships. This doesn't only apply in politics or business. It applies in love, too. Imagine a partner says, "You don't care about me." The ordinary man rushes to prove his affection with words, gifts, explanations. The Machiavellian man reframes, "I care in ways that don't need to be shouted." The conversation shifts. The emotional frame is redefined. You didn't argue. You controlled the tempo. And whoever controls the tempo controls the relationship. The coldest move. Vanish the frame entirely. Sometimes the deadliest counterattack is to refuse the frame altogether, to act as if the accusation is beneath notice. You don't even acknowledge it. This is the move of emperors. Accusations dissolve before they reach the throne. What cannot be acknowledged cannot exist. Final thought for this stage. Reframing is not defense. It is domination. It takes the energy of the attack and sends it crashing back toward the attacker. With silence and reframing combined, you become unassailable. The man who cannot be cornered, the leader who cannot be accused, the predator who defines reality itself. This is why Machiavelli's wisdom endures, because he knew that power is never about truth. Power is about control, and reframing gives you control over the battlefield of perception. Building aura beyond reputation. Reputation is a mask. Aura is a crown. Most people obsess over reputation, spending their lives polishing the fragile mirror of how others see them. But Machiavelli warns, a reputation can be shattered with a single rumor, a single whisper in the right ear. Aura, on the other hand, is untouchable. Aura is not what people say about you, it is what they feel when you enter the room. Reputation, a fragile illusion. Think of how quickly reputations collapse. One scandal, one mistake, one enemy with a story, and years of careful crafting evaporate. The man who depends on reputation is like a merchant whose fortune rests on a single ship at sea. One storm, and it is gone. Machiavelli saw this in Florence, where entire families built reputations as noble and virtuous, only to be destroyed overnight by gossip and betrayal. Those who survived weren't the ones with the best reputations, but the ones with the strongest aura. Aura, the untouchable weapon. What is aura? It is the invisible field of dominance around a person. It is the way they carry themselves, the silence they command, the weight of their presence. Aura does not require defending because it does not need words. People sense it, they feel it. A man with aura can be accused, slandered, even mocked, but the accusations slide off because no one dares believe them. They think, if he is truly guilty, why does he look so unshaken? Why does he walk as if nothing can touch him? Aura makes lies look like desperation. Aura makes enemies look like gnats swatting at a storm. Historical lesson, fear versus love. Machiavelli famously wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Why? Because love depends on reputation, on the belief that you are good, kind, trustworthy. Fear depends on aura, the felt reality that crossing you carries consequences. Love fades when your reputation is questioned. Fear endures as long as your aura remains intact. Consider Cesare Borgia again. He was not loved. He was accused of cruelty, betrayal, and ambition, but his aura was so strong, so ruthless, that no one dared move against him without trembling. Machiavelli, who witnessed him firsthand, described him as the model prince, not because of his morality, but because of his aura. Modern parallels, leaders who embody aura. In modern times, think of leaders who seem immune to scandal. Accusations swirl, headlines scream, enemies unite against them, yet their presence does not waver. Some continue winning elections, others keep building empires. Why? Because their aura overshadows the attacks. On the other hand, think of leaders who collapse at the first hint of controversy. They apologize, explain, defend, and in doing so, they destroy themselves. Their reputation was glass, one crack, and the entire structure fell apart. Aura is steel. Aura bends, but never breaks. Building aura. So how do you build this Machiavellian aura? 3 principles. Composure under fire. Never let accusations rattle you. The calmer you appear, the more people believe you are untouchable. Scarcity of words. Speak less. Let silence build weight around you. The fewer explanations you give, the more people project strength onto you. Strategic action. When you do act, act decisively. People forgive silence if it is followed by power. They forget rumors if you crush your enemies swiftly. Aura is not built by talking. It is built by presence, silence, and decisive strikes. Mini hook. Are you building reputation or aura? Ask yourself honestly, are you trying to be liked or are you building something greater? Do you rely on reputation, fragile and fleeting? Or are you cultivating aura, the invisible weapon that no accusation can penetrate? Most men polish their reputation until it blinds them. Few men cultivate aura, and that is why most men break under pressure. The paradox of aura. Here's the paradox. The less you defend yourself, the stronger your aura grows. The more you explain, the weaker it becomes. Aura thrives on mystery. Reputation thrives on approval. Mystery is feared. Approval is begged for. Machiavelli would tell you, never be the man who begs. Be the man who forces others to beg for your attention, your words, your judgment. That is the foundation of aura. Final lesson before the highest stage: reputation is external. It depends on others. Aura is internal. It radiates from you. Aura cannot be stolen because it is not granted. It is taken, built, and projected. When accusations come, let them bounce off the armor of aura. When enemies whisper, let them whisper into silence. Because the man with aura does not fight rumors, he dissolves them by existing. And once you master aura, you are ready for the highest stage of Machiavellian power: untouchable presence. Becoming untouchable. At the highest stage of power, you no longer need silence, reframing, or even aura as separate tools. You become untouchable because your very existence dissolves accusations before they land. This is not simply about strategy, it is about transformation. You stop playing the game of defense altogether. You embody such presence, such command, that the game cannot even be played against you. Presence. The final fortress. Machiavelli knew that the strongest fortress is not built of stone or steel. It is built of perception. And the man who radiates unshakable presence has built an invisible fortress around himself. What is presence? It is the combination of silence, composure, and aura, condensed into a single state of being. Presence is when people lower their voices when you walk into a room. Presence is when even your enemies hesitate, wondering if their attack will rebound against them. Presence is when accusations do not stick because you do not allow them to exist. The man who never needs to explain, the man who is untouchable, never explains. He never justifies. He never kneels to judgment. If he is accused, he does not answer. If he is insulted, he does not flinch. If he is betrayed, he does not whine. He acts swiftly and decisively without words. Machiavelli wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see, but few can feel." This is the essence of presence. People judge you by what they see, your composure, your aura, not by your hidden explanations. They rarely feel the truth. They only see the image you project. The untouchable man controls the image completely. Historical echoes. When presence conquers, consider the Roman Emperor Augustus. His enemies whispered against him, accused him of ambition and deceit. But Augustus rarely responded to slander. He projected calm inevitability, the quiet authority of a man destined to rule. His presence was so commanding that enemies melted into allies, and rumors died before they took root. Or think of Winston Churchill during World War II. Surrounded by critics, challenged at every turn, Churchill didn't waste time defending himself against endless accusations. He projected resolve. His presence in Parliament was so immovable that even doubters found themselves pulled into his gravity. Modern reflections. The untouchable elite. In modern life, you see echoes of this in leaders who never scramble to defend themselves on social media, who never issue frantic clarifications. Instead, they radiate calm while the world burns around them. Their silence, their poise, their aura make them look like giants, while their enemies look like children throwing tantrums. The untouchable man is not scandal-proof because scandals never touch him. They dissolve in the aura of inevitability he projects. How to cultivate untouchable presence? Presence is not magic. It is built. Here is how. Detach from validation. Stop seeking approval, likes, applause. The moment you need it, you are vulnerable to losing it. Control your tempo. Speak when you choose. Act when you choose. Never let enemies set the rhythm of your response. Train composure. Practice remaining unmoved under insult, criticism, or attack. Every time you refuse to flinch, you grow stronger. Act with precision. When you do act, let it be final. A decisive strike ends the conversation forever. These habits harden into presence over time until you no longer need to think about defending or reframing. Your aura does it for you. Mini hook for the viewer. So imagine this. The next time someone accuses you, whether in a meeting, in a relationship, or online, you don't respond, you don't defend, you don't explain, you stand still, you hold their gaze, or you vanish entirely, leaving them to collapse under their own weight. Wouldn't it feel liberating to no longer be a prisoner of other people's words? Wouldn't it feel ruthless, powerful, unstoppable to know that you are untouchable? Machiavelli's final lesson. Machiavelli teaches us that the most dangerous man is not the one who attacks first. It is the one who never needs to. The untouchable man no longer dances on the strings of accusation or validation. He is his own fortress. When you stop defending yourself, you stop living by other people's judgments. You stop letting their words shape your destiny. Instead, you define yourself, and the world adapts to that definition. The man who never defends himself never needs to. That is the highest form of power. The community of the ruthless. This channel is for those who dare to see the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. If you have the courage to embrace Machiavelli's ruthless psychology, to stop explaining, to stop justifying, to become untouchable, then you are already ahead of most. So ask yourself, will you keep living as someone who defends, apologizes, and kneels? Or will you train yourself to rise above it, to stand in silence, to project aura, and to embody presence? That choice will decide whether you remain ordinary or become untouchable. Before you go, make sure to subscribe to Ruthless Psychology and join a community that uncovers the hidden rules of power, control, and influence. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Machiavelli was right, or was he too ruthless? Because the conversation doesn't end here. The battle for power never ends.